Heidi, 2. The picture made Heidi cry. It reminded her of Peter and her home on the mountain. During her stay, Clara's grandmother could see that Heidi was very sad and tried to encourage her. Heidi began to lose her appetite and look pale. At night, she would think of home and cry into her pillow so that no one could hear her. Many weeks passed like this. Heidi did not know if it was winter or summer. Heidi's longing for the familiar and beautiful things on the mountain grew stronger each day. Then, something caused a big problem in the house. The front door had been found open the last few mornings. Everyone in the house thought it was a ghost. Clara's father was sent for. As it turned out, the ghost was Heidi. She had been sleepwalking. Each night, while dreaming of opening her grandfather's door, she had actually walked to the front door and opened it. But Heidi did not remember doing this. The doctor's advice to Clara's father was that Heidi should be sent home at once. Everyone in the house was told to prepare for Heidi's trip home. Clara was very upset, so her father promised she could go and visit Heidi. Clara gave Heidi many presents. This made Heidi so happy that she didn't have time to be sad before she left. With each day of the trip, Heidi grew more excited. At last, she saw the hut. Heidi rushed up to her grandfather and flung her arms around his neck. Her grandfather was very surprised. For the first time in many years, the old man cried. Then he put Heidi on his knee and started to ask many questions. Heidi explained how Clara's family had been kind, but that every day she had grown sadder. Heidi gave her grandfather a letter from Clara's father. They went inside, and Heidi had some goat's milk and cheese. While drinking, she heard a loud whistle. Heidi jumped up excitedly. It was Peter and the goats. Peter stood staring at her in shock. Was she really back? Heidi ran among the goats and said hello to each one. That night, Heidi was so happy and content, she fell asleep without trouble. The following year, in May, Heidi received a letter from Clara saying she would be there in about 6 weeks with her grandmother. One day, Heidi was rounding the corner of the hut after finishing her chores. She gave such a loud cry that her grandfather came running to see what had happened. "Grandfather!" she cried, beside herself with excitement. "Come here! Look! Look!" The old man looked in the direction she was pointing. Clara and her grandmother were coming up the mountain path. Clara was being carried, and her grandmother was on a horse. Heidi rushed forward, and the two children hugged each other with delight. Clara's grandmother thought Heidi looked very healthy. Clara was gazing around at her surroundings. She had never imagined, much less seen, anything so beautiful. Heidi's grandfather helped move Clara to her wheelchair. Heidi, if only I could walk about with you," said Clara. Clara wanted to look at everything Heidi had always talked about. So using all her strength, Heidi began to push Clara around in her chair. Heidi's grandfather suggested that Clara stay with them up on the mountain. The two little girls were very excited. Clara's grandmother thought it was a fantastic idea for Clara to stay on the mountain for a month. She said she would come and visit. Later that afternoon, Clara finally got to meet Peter and the goats. Each morning, Clara woke with so much energy she could not believe it. Every day, Heidi and Clara would sit outside in the sun. They would write letters to Clara's grandmother, talk about news from Frankfurt, and play. Clara's appetite grew with each day. The goat's milk and cheese were delicious.